Folks, when they tell you about justice in America, don't you believe it. When they tell you about due process, don't you believe that either. This story is about the lack of justice, or timely justice, and specifically about the lack of due process, and the fact that a recently elected judge in the state of Mississippi was able to obtain at least some manner of justice, and he is still continuing on. And as far as due process was concerned, he basically exposed that for the joke that it is. The judge that I'm speaking about is Judge Carlos Moore. He is a elected judge in the state of Mississippi. And if not for him and a recently elected district attorney in the state of Mississippi, a man would still be behind bars for, at this point, 11 years and never have gone to trial. I'm going to play this clip from the Roland Martin show on News One Now and make a little commentary at the very end.
Freed after 11 years in jail without a trial. Stephen Jesse Harris had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was put in the Clay County, Mississippi jail, charged with the murder of his father, kidnapping a woman, and shooting at officers in October of 2005. In April of 2008, doctors said he was incompetent to waive his constitutional rights or to stay in trial. But it wasn't until last week that authorities dismissed all charges against Harris, citing his mental status. Judge Carlos Moore, of course, Tom, he's the judge who removed the Mississippi state flag because of that Confederate symbol from his courtroom on his first day. He's representing Harris. He's the managing partner of Tucker Moore Group. Judge, the man spent 11 years in jail, no trial. Did anybody, any prosecutor, did anybody say this is wrong?
No, Roland. Unfortunately, no one said it was wrong. The prosecutor was a longtime prosecutor that had been in office for 30 years, and he was known to do things on the fringes, and so he let the man sit in jail for 11 years with no trial. Luckily, a black prosecutor was historically elected in that district, and he did the right thing and sought justice and moved to non-pros and allowed the man out.
Well, first of all, let's give that brother, that black prosecutor credit. What's that prosecutor's name?
Scott Pallone, a young brother in his early 30s that won the election and did the right thing. So
another example of what happens when blacks become prosecutors, they are fair and just, and of course, and they live by that creed on the wall of the Supreme Court, equal justice under law.
Correct.
So your client, what did you say to him when he discovered that he was no longer going to have to be in jail?
His brother, his twin brother, hired me because, of course, my client is schizophrenic. He doesn't exactly know what's going on, but his brother was elated. His brother is a paralegal student now, and he's studying law because of this ordeal, and he was very much elated. He was in tears to know that his brother was finally coming home and that the nightmare was finally over.
When you say coming home, though, isn't he also still, though, in a facility because of his schizophrenia?
He is, but he will be released at some point to his brother's care. His brother has taken it upon himself to make sure he gets his meds and things, and should he be functional in society, he will continue to remain with his brother. However, if things get too rough, he may have to have him institutionalized again in some type of home where he can get further specialized treatment.
We know about the police. Yes, Tom, go ahead. It was charged with murdering his father and, Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, kidnapping another woman?
Correct, as well as shooting at 3 police officers.
And 3 years after it happened, that's when he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
3 years after it happened was when he was diagnosed, evaluated by a mental health professional, and he was ruled not competent to stand trial. We believe he was already schizophrenic, but the courts have different standards, and so they had him examined to see if he was competent to stand trial, and that psychiatrist said no.
He had been in jail that period of time? He had been in prison that period of time when he was examined?
So even though he was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2008, that means he spent 9 more years in jail?
That's correct. 9 more years. And had not Scott Cologne won the historic election, he would likely still be sitting in jail.
So there was no judge, there was no DA, there was no one who said, yo, we got a problem.
No one. He was blessed to have the twin brother. The twin brother had been away for a while. He came back home to Mississippi last year, and that's when he hired me to look into the situation, and we got involved, and we began to seek justice, and we talked to the prosecutor, and he chose to do the right thing. This reminds me of the Khalid Browder case in New York. The young black man spent 3 years in Rikers Island for allegedly stealing a backpack, was eventually released, but the brother committed suicide because of the trauma that he had to endure. Correct. And this man, he has withstood things unimaginable. I can't imagine one of my loved ones sitting in jail for 11 years without benefit of a trial. No matter what they're accused of, we are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So Mississippi is going to have to pay for this heinous act. Another injustice yet again. Has a governor or anybody issued an apology to his family? Not at all. So a federal lawsuit will be filed soon. Wait.
Who will bear the greater responsibility? I know you said there's going to be money, but who really says, or who do you point the finger at and say, this is your fault? Is it just the system?
It's the system, but it's Clay County. Clay County is the county that had him locked up, so they will be named as defendant. The sheriff will be named. We will look at the prosecutor. The prosecutor and judge usually have immunity, so it's really going to be the sheriff and the county.
Now, let me be clear here. He's still going to trial for murder, right?
The charges have been dropped. As of last week, he would not stand trial for murder. The charges have been dropped. You have a right to a speedy trial, so surely 11 years is not a speedy trial.
Well, and again, he was declared incompetent, so therefore that's why he didn't stand trial. And to your point, if they decide to retry, if they decide to retry him, first of all, can they do that? Now the charge has been dismissed. Explain that legal status.
The charges have been dismissed without prejudice. Should at some point in the future, two psychiatrists agree that he is now competent or is incompetent to stand trial, the prosecutor could reinstitute the charges, but it's not likely. That's in theory. It could happen, but it's not likely.
Is he the only person that's in prison for the same sort of thing? There are others. I'm just guessing that you know.
Not to my knowledge in Mississippi. I hear that's something similar to Alabama.
Right. There is a case in Alabama that we'll be following up on as well. I talked to somebody at the NAACP convention last week in Baltimore, and we'll be following that story as well. But Judge Moore, thank you very much for your leadership as well. Again, it's just shameful. 11 years in prison, never went to trial. Judge Carlos Moore, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ron.
Now, this is the same judge that on his very first day, taking his seat on the bench in Mississippi, removed the Mississippi flag from his courtroom and indicated his reasons why. Obviously, it was an affront to black people everywhere, and in particular in the state of Mississippi. So hopefully we can get a few more judges like this particular judge and Judge Olu Stevens, I believe, in Kentucky, who will hopefully be able to provide more even justice to black people in America.